and acting spokesperson for the General Staff of Ukraine, Vladyslav Seleznyov. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to see you at our briefing. I have to tell you about the following. The President of Ukraine, Commander-in-Chief Superior of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, has signed a decree about 3 stages of partial mobilization in Ukraine in 2015, and this is required by the danger to state independence and territorial integrity of Ukraine caused by the aggressive actions of the Russian Federation. We need to sustain the combat and mobilization preparedness of the armed forces of Ukraine on the level that guarantees the adequate reaction to dangers to national security of our state. We have to maintain the levels of personnel and resources at the stand where they can be of use for the fulfillment of combat tasks. According to the decision of the National Council for Defense and Security of Ukraine, the mobilization during 2015 will last for 210 days. The planned stages of mobilization concern the same categories of people that were mobilized in 2014. During the partial mobilization, the burden for different regions of Ukraine will be equal. This is done with the aim to exclude possible social tension in connection with the withdrawal of able-bodied citizens from the national economy. The same principle was observed in 2014. From mobilization, such citizens are excluded who have 3 and more children, also persons who are engaged in caring for their disabled relatives full-time, and also those citizens who are constantly ascribed to enterprises. Last year, we had 3 stages of partial mobilization, as a result of which military units and establishments were replenished to the level of wartime. Also, the respective groups of troops were created. According to Ukraine's legislation, the mobilized citizens during the previous stages of mobilizations had a package of social guarantees for the duration of calendar year. In March, the year's term of guaranteeing salaries and jobs for the people who were mobilized in 2014 is expiring. In order not to allow for the sharpening of the situation in the society, these military will be replaced with the trained personnel. Also, the military commissariats will conduct a respective set of measures pertaining to the detailed medical examination of the citizens. The first stage is the general training for officers, sergeants, and rank-and-file soldiers. This includes medical, tactical, firing, and engineering training. Then there will be specialized training according to their specialties with the duration of 26 days. After this, the personnel will be sent to units for combat training with a term up to 15 days. The officers will be sent to military educational establishments. Qualified soldiers and sergeants will be sent to training centers. Other military will undergo training in training centers and on testing grounds. Not a single mobilized person will be allowed to perform combat tasks without undergoing a full cycle of military training. Women could be drafted to the troops during the planned stages of mobilizations. However, the upper limit of being in reserve for women equals 50 years, while it is 60 years for men. Citizens can be mobilized within the span of age from 20 to 60 years, and including 50 to 60 only if they volunteer for this. The citizens of Ukraine younger than 25 who have not undergone military service can be drafted to military service exclusively through the contract. Today, at the State Concern Ukроборонпром, the 20th sitting of the Joint Working Group Ukraine-NATO from Defense and Technical Cooperation will happen. The participants will discuss the results of the fulfillment of defense and technical cooperation over the period that elapsed since the previous sitting of the Joint Working Group, and will define the trends of further cooperation between Ukraine and NATO. In the evening, they plan to visit the state enterprise Antonov. Also today, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Colonel General Stepan Poltorak, will meet the ambassador plenipotentiary of the Federative Republic of Germany in Ukraine, Chris Weiler. Military units of the Armed Forces of Ukraine continue to perfect their field training on testing grounds. In Rivne, at the General Military Testing Ground, the North Operative Command military personnel trained to fire from BTR-70 APC and also to throw grenades RGD-5. They also fire from machine guns at targets that appear and move at the distance of 300 to 1,300 meters. In Donetsk region, the military of howitzer artillery units who are defending Mariupol take part in tactical training with combat fire and shelling. In Lviv, in the Academy of Land Forces, named after Hetman Petro Sagaidatchin, a course of planning international military training has started. Over 40 military personnel from Georgia, Lithuania, Macedonia, Poland, and Ukraine are taking part, including representatives of National Guards of Ukraine, who in 2015 will also join multinational trainings. Traditionally, as instructors, the officers of Armed Forces of Canada are involved. Individual trainings are conducted under the leadership of experienced Ukrainian officers who have more than once taken part in multinational training and have performed tasks in the zone of anti-terrorist operation. After a series of introductory trainings, the course participants will practically work on all the stages of planning and organization of multinational events, including coordination between participants, preparation of the area of maneuvers, and there will be separate training for officers who can be involved in commanding the multinational training. After the course, the participants will use their knowledge during the planning of the training Rapid Trident that will happen this year at the International Center for Peacekeeping and Security in Lviv region and Klinova Arka, Maple Arch in Lithuania. The specialists of the group of military-civil cooperation are working out the ways of solving problem issues of the settlements that suffered as a result of combat actions, and they will also coordinate work between the representatives of different departments and organizations. Over the last days, the group of civil and military cooperation in Luhansk region was engaged in coordinating the restoration works, renewal works at the damaged lines of electric grid of several settlements that were fired upon from Grad multiple launch batteries by terrorists. The military have provided for the transportation and security of repairmen during their work and also conducted meetings with local residents. In Kramatorsk, the officers of the Group of Coordination of Civil and Military Cooperation have handed over 30 sets of development toys to the preschool, nursery, orphanage Hayok. So these are the brief results of the activity of the Ministry of Defense over the last day. And now I pass the word to the officer of the Press Center of Anti-Terrorist Operation, Captain Second Rank Leonid Matyukhin, who will tell you about the events in the zone of the anti-terrorist operation. Yeah, I get you well. The situation in the zone of anti-terrorist operation in Donbass remains complicated. The illegal armed formations increased the number and intensity of shelling of positions of Ukrainian forces and peaceful residential areas. Starting from 6 p.m. last day and until this morning, the illegal armed formations have fired at Ukrainian positions 44 times. And in the evening, the enemy have intensified their activity in Luhansk direction in the vicinity of settlements Kryakivka, Verkhnya Vilkhova, Trokhizbenka, Krymsky, and Stanitsa Luhanska. Starting from 7 p.m., the gunmen have 13 times hit those settlements from Grad batteries, and they have not stopped shelling the Ukrainian positions next to Donetsk airport. In general, the bandit formations over the 24 hours have 129 times shelled the positions of Ukrainian military. Also, there were 11 cases of air reconnaissance with the use of drones were detected in the vicinity of Kirovsky, Shasta, Starobelsk, Toshkivka, Talakovka, Sartana, Berdyansk, Staraya Aydarov, Avdiivka, and Mariupol. In spite of the complexity of the situation, it is still under the control of Ukrainian military, and if the enemy's actions become more intensive, they get repelled. Any questions, colleagues? I have a question to Mr. Vladyslav, or rather I have two. Will the mobilized people be sent to the anti-terrorist operation zone? The answer is unequivocal. The people who will be mobilized will not be used at the anti-terrorist operation zone. In many districts, they have no acting heads of state district administration, but it is they who are responsible for organizing the medical checkup. What is the situation there? As soon as the parliament confirms the decree of the president and transforms it into the law of Ukraine, the process of conducting the fourth wave of mobilization will be launched. And the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the local self-government bodies do have everything necessary for the fourth stage of mobilization. To make it efficient, we have conducted a powerful set of preparatory events, and all the mistakes that we had during the first, second, and third waves of mobilization are being taken into account and are being taken care of. And of course, we are not fully competent to speak about the heads of district state administrations, but as far as the Ministry of Defense is concerned, I'm quite sure that everything will work okay. Yesterday, Chief of Staff, Colonel General Muzhenko, was working with military commissariats on these issues. No questions. Thank you very much, Leonid. Have a calm day, and thank you. Your next briefing will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and the next briefing in this premises will happen at 10:30.